Dearest viewer, I love love. Sue me. Hey y'all, my name's Sasha Raquel, and today we are going to be reviewing the long-awaited Bridgerton Season 3 Part 2. I can't believe the day has kind of already come and gone, but let me catch you up to speed. Part 1 left us. After the shock engagement of the social season, Penelope struggles to maintain her relationships with those dearest to her as her Lady Whistledown identity threatens to be revealed. All critiques aside, I really just want to start this review with the fact that I love this show so dearly. I think this is something that's talked about a lot in the book community, and I want to bring this to like the movie and TV community. Hashtag MovieTube. Hashtag make MovieTube a thing. There's a book that's not like the most perfectly written, but it is fun. It is a good time. Baby, give it 5 stars. Bridgerton, that's kind of the level I'm at with Bridgerton. Also, the other disclaimer I want to start this one with, not to make this intro so long, is the fact, as a Kate and Anthony girly forever, I am once again, as I have for most of my Bridgerton videos, wearing my You Are the Bane of My Existence, the Object of All My Desires. Yes, I have watched it in between wears, do not fear. After having them be like my favorite couple and not having another couple that I like feel so attached to that I'm so excited for their story, there's a level of things that I'm willing to like let go of as a viewer, or like expectations that I'm trying not to set with this show. So I know there's a lot of book people who, especially for this season, have been like, this was the season they're waiting for. So I'd love to hear from those people. The one thing that I'm gonna give everybody props for in this half of the season was the turmoil. I think a lot of people were like, a lot of the critiques I heard from the first part where things are rushed, where's the romance between Penelope and Colin. I think after season 2, which will never before and never again be done, it's just, it's unique and on its own as a beautiful, perfect season of television. Thank you very much. That was a slow burn and a painful, dramatic, slow burn. And that's something that the beginning of season 3 just did not deliver for me specifically. But part 2, baby girl, they heard what I was thinking and they said, we got you. Because TikTok, the 5th episode, might be one of my favorite episodes of this season. The way that they are able to build tension in that episode of what you as a viewer know, what certain characters know, and I think that was the really smart choice of, not to spoil a lot, it was in the trailer, but of Eloise kind of threatening to tell Penelope's Lady Whistledown secret. They've done a really interesting job in Bridgerton of letting there be a lot of dramatic irony because you as the viewer know things that the rest of the characters don't. But when you have another character that's kind of on the same level as you, which was Eloise in this episode particularly, it added another level of tension to have her be opposed to like what you want to happen. And it was so tense. It showed really like the disorientation of not only being in love and Penelope feeling like, is this real life?
Is this real life?
Finally with the man of her dreams, as well as this idea of like, oh my God, there's this crippling secret. I think they just played up that dynamic so well, especially with bringing in a lot of the other characters too, and have them have things that they want to talk about or they want to say, or seeing certain characters form a little bit of a devious plan. Wink, wink, if you know who I'm talking about. And I just think it was done so exceptionally well, and I really, really loved it. I know this is a controversial opinion, and I've seen a lot more people recently come out of the woodworks and be like, I want my TV shows week to week. I want regular seasons. I'm tired of these 2-year waits. And while I think a lot of that has a lot of validity, I will say that the split binge of this season is excellent, and let me tell you why. Carriage scene, if it was followed by episode 5 and you were just binging straight through, carriage scene would be nothing, girl. It would be nothing. I think the way they were able to split the tension, and I'm interested to go back and binge all of this when it's been a little while all together, because I genuinely really do feel like the first half of the season is able to be this kind of like happy, taking charge, and it kind of follows this like dip of Penelope's kind of agency. She goes into the marriage mart like knowing she's not gonna find love, but getting like wanting a husband. And then she kind of gets everything she's ever wanted when Colin proposes. And then there's this risk of losing it, which feels so much greater than anything else. And like, as much as I loved the enemies to lovers slow burn in season 2, or even just the drama of like, I'm married to this man, but like he doesn't want to have children and that's all I've ever wanted and he's lying to me. Here we get this, what if you lost it all? Like, not because of like a personality issue, but because of something you've built prior to the relationship, which is not really applicable in any of the other cases thus far. And I just think that was so well done and so fun to get to see these characters in this situation. And so I'm personally for this season split. Now, I'm not objectively overall for the splits of these seasons, because I do think let fans have more to pour over, like tell the whole story at once. A lot of this is a business cop out, but I think here the story element of it all did really apply. I think it was really fun where and how they split the season, and the fact that there were like extra songs we got to look forward to in the second part. Like there's so much about this season specifically getting split that I enjoyed. I also think that in addition to episode 5 and like the overall impact of the way that the split happened worked for me, the wedding was really, really sweet. There's a couple shots in here, specifically in episode 5 and then I think episode 7, where we really get to appreciate some of the visual storytelling that Bridgerton offers us. There's one scene in particular where Colin and Penelope are dancing that really just works and applies to the theme of this, of Penelope's headspace. Like, if everything went away, I'd still have Colin, and I love him, and this is what matters. And I think some of those things, even though they're short, they're not grandiose, there's not as much of a like proclamation of love that I think has come out of the last couple seasons. I think the overall visual storytelling of this season, of these two people who are so genuinely happy to be together, is really, really, really beautiful and really worked for me. The one other thing I want to kind of address, just because I don't want to go super in depth with this being a spoiler-free review, is the fact that changes are definitely happening, and I don't think that everybody's gonna be happy. And right now, with it only being a day after the release at the time of filming this, I don't know what the discourse is gonna end up being as we proceed into like a 4th season of the show. But I think this is the risk you run when you adapt something that is a book or from a prior material. Any type of change is going to be scrutinized at least by one person who really liked the original way that things were done, whether it be a plot element, whether it be a description of a character, whether it be story elements. That stuff is going to impact your fans and who wants to watch the show. Do I think Bridgerton is going to have a problem with the changes they're making? Probably not. I very much feel that if you're a fan of something originally, and when it is adapted to screen, if something is changed, I think it's totally fair for you to be upset about some of this stuff. And I think it's really a matter of how they play out some of these changes that they may win some people over, because I will have everyone remember that in the first 2 seasons of Bridgerton, the casting of the love interests of the Bridgerton siblings were definitely scrutinized to some degree, specifically because of their race. It'll be interesting to see where Bridgerton takes things in the future with some of what I would think are more major changes, but maybe people who are fans of the books already feel that there's been too many major changes, or major changes that they've had to really like separate the original source material and the series. I don't personally have any strong opinions about anything right now. That partially is just like, so long as like Kate and Anthony live happily ever after and don't like die, I kind of am ambivalent towards everything else. I think the major win of these last 4 episodes was kind of a return to form of the Bridgerton show, and to some extent what Julia Quinn laced within the books is the female relationships and the way that this show does such a good job of addressing a woman's place in society, and how women at the time probably desired certain things that are similar to some women now, yet they were not even close to being socially acceptable, much less something that a woman could articulate. And I think the beauty here is we have so many characters in this show, female characters that are so different, and it's not just like, oh, strong female lead vibes. We have Eloise, who's like very opposed to things at her time. We have Daphne, who really wanted to get married and be a mother. Francesca, who wants to be married but like doesn't want to live in the city, like literally has no desire for that. Violet, who is a woman who is a widow, whose widow life has been very different and very differently received than Lady Danbury's widowhood, and Portia Featherington's being a widow. 3 women who are mothers, who are widows, who are wildly different characters, partially because of their circumstances and financial settings, but also just because of the way they are written. And I think so many of these relationships come to light with conversations between Violet and Lady Danbury, and Portia and Penelope and Eloise, that I think are just so interesting. And not to mention Cressida and her mother's weird, sad family dynamic. It's just so beautiful to get to see all of this done, and specifically the Penelope and Eloise stuff. Those characters, they had them down. There were so many times in the second half of the season I just felt like, oh, this is exactly how I would have expected them to react. Like, I wouldn't have predicted it, but it's exactly how they as a character should respond to this situation, and they just handled that perfectly. And then some of the conversations between Portia and Penelope I think are really powerful and interesting, and show a difference to kind of the Bridgerton-esque storyline of true love perseveres always, with Portia not having that with her husband, or the difference in financial settings dynamics between the two families. It's just really cool to get to kind of flip the coin in this show and explore something that's a supposedly similar situation but from a different lens, and I think they've done that so well here. The one thing that I think is my like takeaway critique is I think that some of the drama between Penelope and Colin handled more internally in the book, although still like handled the same way. And there were just certain times in the show that I kind of wished we would have handled things differently. And this to me goes a little bit hand in hand with things I said in my last review of Jess Brownell, the new showrunner for season 3, things she said about trying to make this season specifically different from the last two and making changes that make those distinctions clear, as well as this season being a little bit less sexy, I think, than past seasons. And let me explain this a little bit further. I feel like there are a lot of times in this second half when Colin is stating his feelings about Penelope or working through and processing different things to other characters rather than to her. I think there are elements that they tried to make different from Daphne and Simon's relationship in this half, specifically with Colin and Penelope getting married. I don't think that's too much of a spoiler. There were ways in which there could have been more reassurance between the love of the characters and how that this struggle that they're going through with the Lady Whistledown secret is something they can overcome. And obviously I say that and then you'd be like, well, there wouldn't be that much drama then, like what would they play up? And I get that, so I'm trying not to be super harsh about it. It's just something that I think if I were to critique it, a few things between the two of them would have been emphasized or handled slightly differently or in a different order of events, just to make things a little bit less extreme. And I get that they want the drama between the main couple, and I'm sure a lot of people really responded well to that, seeing as they thought the first half didn't have enough of that like drama and yearning and like heartache between the two of them. But I felt like this was a unique story in which their story is very much about communication and this existing friendship and their wit, and how new love and jealousy between the two of them has to come to play in their marriage. So part of this is being brought on by the fact that I did read the book before watching the show, and so there's stuff that I'm like, well, why didn't they do it this way? And maybe you as a only show viewer are thinking it was perfect, like I wouldn't have changed anything. So again, I think that's all just like little tiny critiques, but overall I had such a fun time. Like I felt so many highs of emotions watching the second half and just the show in general, and I have realized as of recent that this is probably one of my favorite shows of all time because of how much I choose to rewatch it, how much excitement and comfort it brings me, the emotions that it feels, and how good some of the writing is. And I'm very excited for the future, which is very clearly set up here in season 3 part 2. If you didn't catch it, go back and look for it because it's gonna slap you in the face. And I'm very excited to see where we go next, even though it sounds like we've got a little bit of a wait in front of us. Let me know what you thought about season 3 part 2 and season 3 as a whole in the comments down below. Please be sure to like this video if you enjoyed it and want more Bridgerton stuff. You're gonna want to hit the subscribe button if you do, because I've got a lot coming, including full seasons 1, 2, 3 and Queen Charlotte recaps that I am planning. That's my big goal, as well as just general videos and excitement. And I'm sure as more news about season 4 comes out, we will be here to talk about it. So thank you guys so much for watching. Have an absolutely amazing day or night whenever you're getting to watch this, and I'll see you in my very next video. Bye, y'all.